The Harlem Renaissance took place in the 1920s and has created an early mold for the African American culture in the United States. During this time, we see many new art forms, people, and ways of life come about. The reason for this is the lack of persecution that African Americans faced in Harlem. Harlem was a safe place for African Americans to speak about ideas and art. African American music, art, and lifestyle from the Harlem in the 1920s has changed and molded the way our music, art, and lifestyle is today. Many have called jazz one of the only original American art forms and it had a huge breaking out point because the music focused on cultures that Harlem possessed. The birthplace of jazz being in New Orleans, jazz moved north towards Harlem during the Great Migration. One of the most famous jazz artists' name is Duke Ellington. Ellington launched his career in New York and went on to be one of the most influential composers of the 20th century. Jazz music has helped the women's movement because of the rebellious message that and connotations that went along with jazz during this time. Jazz not only impacted the women's movement but also plays a role in their music today. Many pop singers perform with jazz musicians. The Art of Harlem Renaissance spoke volumes about the history of African Americans in the United States. Artists illustrated ideas of oppression that they and their families have had to go through for years in America. One artist that has illustrated this history of oppression is a man named Aaron Douglas. A piece by Aaron Douglas that highlights this is called From Slavery Through Reconstruction. And in this piece, he goes through the timeline of African American oppression by illustrating people in change. KKK Klansmen seemingly ready to attack, as well as Confederate soldiers fighting to keep slavery in the South. Harlem art sparked a movement and revolutionized African Americans in the 20s and is a mold for how art can be used as a form of protest today. Harlem in the 20s was a city that did not sleep. There were many nightclubs and parties going on after hours. Harlem's community focused on helping fellow artists, musicians, and writers as well. People wanted to support their fellow African American peers and grow together as a community. The massive amount of nightclubs and playhouses contributed to the Renaissance in a large way, and gave singers and playwrights the platform to do their shows as well as people to witness them. During this time, white people have begun to take interest in African American culture, which is a trend that we see today. One of the most popular places to be in Harlem was the Cotton Club and was so popular because it sold alcohol during the years of Prohibition. In conclusion, Harlem was a safe place for a community and a culture to flourish without worry of discrimination, racism, or judgment, and gave many African Americans a chance to express themselves. Because of this opportunity, African American culture from the 20s still influences us today.